It's actually now syncing up and everything. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in to our first ever Pissed Off Parent um, session where we kind of do a personal user story of one of our advocates. Here on the show here we have Paul. He has been involved with the Equal Shared Parenting movement in its various forms for quite a while now. He's definitely a veteran, very deeply involved in everything, and again, we had a chance to bring him on here to kind of hear his story, and kind of see where the conversation goes. Again, this is our first ever one, so who knows what will happen. I'm as excited as everyone else and have no idea what's going to happen on this, so we'll see what happens. Without further ado, let me introduce Paul. Paul, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. This is uncharted territory here. This is kind of a neat little thing we got going here. Hopefully it'll turn into something fun for a lot of other different groups as well. But so, Paul, just, pretty much like everybody else, you got involved involuntarily with the Equal Shared Parenting movement. No one woke up and said, "Ooh, I cannot wait to deal with this." And what we're wanting to do here is really just kind of hear your story, talk about, kind of what got you here, why you do it. Because again, me having been in the movement for quite a while, there was no sane reason for why anyone would ever want to get involved with this. But I guess maybe kind of start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning. Kind of give a kind of high level, who you are, kind of a quick intro, and we'll kind of go from there.
I mean, from the start of it, I grew up in Central Illinois. Came from a divorced home. My parents I was 8 years old when my parents got divorced. So lived that. So grew up having every other weekend. My father seeing him every other weekend. Then after that, went through high school, graduated high school, and stayed. Let me think here. So my dad ran a body shop, and so that's how I learned to paint. Stayed in the painting field, got into industrial coatings after high school, and then I ended up just a few years after high school traveling for my job, and that's what led up to me actually meeting the mother of my child, was traveling for my job. She lives in Texas, and I lived in Illinois, so that's kind of how I grew up, and what it looks like, 1,000 foot, pretty much.
So, you again, your family, you went through a divorce, and I'm assuming you, well, I don't know if you want to maybe high level kind of talk about that, how the impact it had on you. I don't know, what was the custody arrangement between your mom and your dad?
Just the typical every other weekend.
Okay. As a kid growing up, I mean, what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, it sucked because I had so many times, different events and things going on, or just periodically different times throughout the week or whatever, that I would just either, want my dad to be there or to be around my dad in some way, shape, or form. So because of that and different situations, I had a resentment towards my dad for a long time. I mean, I didn't really kind of even process through that as an adult up until a few years ago. That was a process, because first I spent some time being pissed off at my dad, and then being pissed off at my mom, and then finally I'm just like knowing what I know now. My parents were just doing what was normal. You break up, one parent is more responsible than the other parent, meaning one parent has the majority of the time versus the other parent, and that's just what you do. Society told my dad, "Hey, you're only a parent every other weekend, and that's all you have to worry about." So it was tough. It sucked. And of course, my mom got remarried and, kind of all that deal. My dad was upset about them splitting up, divorced, all that stuff. So that kind of played a part into what he decided to be involved in.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so it was tough. But the bottom line, looking at all this going back, my parents didn't have the resources. They 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 weren't properly equipped to handle a divorce and co-parent uh, from two different households.
Right. Yeah.
And because this is what it's like, and it's every other weekend. This is what you get. See you guys later. And so it's
It
it
sucked.
sucked. Yeah, it was tough. You're torn as a child. You're torn.
Yeah. You don't know where your allegiances are, and one weekend this, one weekend that, and that's in the best of times. So yeah, not the best. Well, I'd say maybe transitions a little bit here to okay. So you met the mother of your child, and make kind of fun here, but like what attracted you to her? What was the kind of the started dating and you found her and um,
Um, yeah, I mean, well, she had a job.
that
When I met her, she had some goals. She was career based at that point. And most women I was running across, they they weren't necessarily had a career goal.
okay,
So that was the first thing that attracted me to her was,
she had a job.
yeah, she had a job and she had some goals, and
Okay,
I'm like, hey, that's cool.
awesome. Okay, any fun times? Any funny stories that you're allowed to tell on air? Or I mean, we've talked before. I mean, we both know it wasn't 110% bad all the time. There had been some good, funny times and stuff like that. I don't know anything that just kind of hit you. That like, oh god, this was a great story. This one time, we were out driving around and X happened, whatever. Anything like
you
that?
know, I, actually, I've tried to think about all of that and how that relationship played out and how it transpired.
Hmm.
And there were a few good times, but it wasn't a very healthy relationship. So I met her because I came to Texas to work, and anyways, there was this one time I had a job, and I had a job I was working on in Tennessee, and she decided to come out there, and so she ended up coming out there for like an extended period of time. I don't remember how long it was, but after I was done working that job and that contract was over with, then I had to load up the camper and on to the next place. And she followed me with the car and all that stuff. So I think she got an idea of kind of what I lived on a day-to-day basis when I was actually working, because I didn't have a normal job, so to speak. But
Hmm.
we had been driving all day, and it had been raining all day. We were going from East Tennessee up to Central Illinois. Went through Tennessee, went into Kentucky. It just rained all day, and finally, after about 9-10 hours, she was just like, man, she's like, we gotta pull over. Like I can't handle this driving in the rain. And I'm like, seriously? Like, come on, we still got like another 300 miles to burn. Like, let's go and let's get there. So I guess that was a good moment. Was nice to be going somewhere
Hmm.
and having somebody there with me, so to speak, because normally it was just me, just load up the truck and camper and go on to the next job type deal. So I don't know. I actually I struggle with that one. I know that there had to have been good times there. But you know, I mean, in all honesty, we didn't spend physically much time together because of my work schedule and how that works. So I think the most amount of months that we physically ever spent together was probably maybe 5 months.
Well, I mean, you
So,
spent enough time together.
we spent at least 5 minutes together. It was at least a good 5 minutes.
Good 5 minutes, yes. So that kind of leads into the like was your daughter? I mean, was it like, hey, was she a surprise? Was it like, hey, let's, you know?
Oh yeah, total surprise. So you know
Okay.
the history with me and mom is just she was on again, off again,
Hmm.
3 different times, and it was every time I went back to work, um, she made some decisions that I didn't agree with.
Hmm.
Uh, so it would lead to the end of us being together. And so, anyways, it was her and I had been split and had not been an item together for probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 months, something like that. And I had been working in Alaska. I worked about a 4-month contract up there.
Hmm.
And towards the end of my contract, she got a hold of me, just normal. Hey, how's it going? And I'm like, oh, all right, okay. Um, so I'd been in Alaska for 4 months. I'd been working 7 days a week.
Hmm.
That long period of time. I think I had one break in there where I had like 3 days off. It was just all assholes and elbows pretty much for 4 months. It's kind of the way that type of work goes. And
Right.
so um, got that job done and went back to Illinois. Came back home, took about a month off of work, and in that month time span, we're still talking with her, and I threw out the idea. I'm like, hey, you want to meet halfway in Joplin, Missouri? So, for anybody who wants to know, from Decatur, Illinois, to Fort Worth, Texas, Joplin, Missouri is exactly halfway. So we met halfway, and we spent 3 nights, 3 days in Joplin, Missouri together. And the first 2 days, all we did was sit there and bitch at each other about what each of us did to each other and why we were so frustrated and why things couldn't work out.
Wow.
We even while we were up there, we went to Springfield, went to the caverns, did all that. But
Hmm.
anyway, so the third night we got a bottle of Captain, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves where we weren't so upset with each other. And that's how our daughter got here, was a bottle of Captain in the Hilton Hotel in Joplin, Missouri.
All right, little Captain Morgan rising to the occasion. Gotcha. Captain Morgan.
Pretty much.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, surprise. So, it sounds like the relationship was toxic. I mean, I'm trying to figure out a different way of saying that, but it sounds like you guys butted heads fairly often, and it just. But then something good came out of it. So you have that. Um, again, it's probably gonna get painful because I think I've heard part of your story before, but so after you were surprised and you were told about it, kind of what happened? I mean, I'm sure it wasn't, hey, let's get married and let's live happily ever after.
No, it was, we parted ways in Joplin, Missouri. She came back to Fort Worth, and I went back up to Decatur. And then after that, it was probably about a week or two. I was getting ready to go to the next job in Virginia, and she called me. We hadn't seen each other for, I think it was at least a month. She called and told me that she was pregnant.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh crap. My first concern was abortion. That was my first concern. So after she had told me that she was pregnant, I had asked her, I'm like, so where are you at with this? she's like, "Oh, I'm keeping the child." And I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah, that's yeah.
So at least I didn't have to. That was my initial thing. And then after I'm like, okay, cool, we're on the same page. She's going to carry the child, right? She's not going to terminate. Then it was, okay, what do we do now? Because at the time, she was sleeping on the couch at her parents' house, right? Like literally sleeping on the couch. It was like I think it's a 1-bedroom house. They had like this makeshift second-looking bedroom, but it was nowhere near the definition of a bedroom.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, what do we do now? You're sleeping on mom's couch, parents' couch. I'm out here pulling my home behind my truck, going from contract to contract. And at the time, I was working in nuclear power plants. So I'm like, great, what do we do now? And, just sat back and kind of really contemplated it. And it was pretty much, I came up what Paul was going to do. It was not hey, what is Paul and Lauren going to do?
Right.
So she picked out an apartment. We went and got this 1-bedroom apartment in Fort Worth.
So you left Illinois, abandoned your family and everything, and
yeah, kind of ish. So I'm trying to think back because I haven't really thought about that. I remember we got the apartment in February of 2016. I was working in Wyoming at the time, and I took some time off. And so it was in February of 2016. Our child was born in May of 2016.
okay.
So it was literally months before our daughter was born. We had went and got this apartment together, furnished it all. We had furnished the whole thing. She didn't have nothing, and I didn't want to bring my stuff into there. Like I'm like, no, this is your place. This is what you want,
Right. So you dropped everything you were doing, your life. I mean, you were from a nuclear power plant. I'm assuming that you're making, mad stacks, kind of thing. And you dropped everything you were doing. You found out you're going to be a dad. You dropped everything you were doing, and you pulled her from her 1-bedroom, not even one, living on the couch, and try to do the right thing. Is that close to?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all off on a limb that it was my child.
Oh yeah, you did. Paternity. Yeah, you hadn't established paternity yet. She just told you, I'm pregnant, and you basically flipped the script and went, I'm all 110% in. Here's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'll say, and what? So she was beyond belief thankful and said, "Hey, I found the man that is. He's going to take care of me, and we're going to have a wonderful life for our daughter together. Going to get married happily ever after, and white picket fences, or what happened?"
Yeah, that was kind of the deal.
Oh, you both agreed to it. You were like, "Hey, this is what we're doing." Okay.
Yeah, and that was in the mix of all that. I had a job offer making it was just a whole lot better deal, making more money.
Mm-hmm.
It was for a nationwide industrial services company. It was a travel company, so it was the same industry that I was in, just different company. And better position was a superintendent position. Before I was just a foreman, ran small crews. So anyways, I was motivated. I was more motivated than I had ever been because I've got a child coming,
Right.
So, that job offer I got in December of 2015, and she was like 3 or 4 months pregnant at that point. And the only reason I took that job opportunity just because it was more money. And it was, the schedule was going to look a little different and so on and so forth. But,
right.
So yeah, I mean, and that was the whole deal. We started looking for houses. I got pre-approved at a couple different finance places, and you know, negotiating out interest rates and what my different options were, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that was the whole plan, was to get a house. But
Okay.
her vision and my vision were two different things, and that's definitely
Yeah.
where we agreed.
Yeah. How did it all go in the pooper, as it were? Well, I mean, obviously it went in the pooper. What happened?
Um, I mean, history just repeated itself. It was, this was our third time being together, and really, why we were together was that she got pregnant.
Right.
you know.
Well, you stepped up. You were like, I'm gonna be the man and make sure that my child, the mother of my child, that my child, and all that, and you're gonna, do what men do, step up.
hmm
I mean, how did she respond to that?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, yeah, we kind of, we had some moments while she was pregnant,
Hmm.
but I didn't overthink it much because I'm just like, oh, she's pregnant,
Pregnant.
emotional, right? She would come at me kind of sideways about some stuff and hang up on me on the phone and whatever else, but nothing that was like too alarming, too crazy. Um,
So,
but ultimately is what happened is, so I went back to work. I was there for the day our child was born. Um, that was quite the experience. I tell you what, there is nothing in life that can prepare you for childbirth.
yeah.
I don't. I That's got to be very, very hard, very difficult for the women too. But me as a male, because everything was so fast, none of the doctors really wanted to explain everything. And of course, I'm wanting to know what the hell's going on here,
Right.
and and everybody's just like, no, no, we got to do this, that. And I'm like, what? Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold the brakes, because her deal was she was in induced labor for, man, 12 hours, I want to say, close to 12 hours. It might have
Wow.
been more than 12 hours. And finally, they're like, hey, we're going to do emergency C-section, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
We got to go. And I'm like, whoa, So, anyways, I mean, you're already sitting at the hospital all freaking day waiting for the kid to come. And, but I don't know where I was going with all that. Oh,
Well,
yeah. So, yeah, child's born, man, that was actually really weird because about a couple months, maybe a month before our daughter was born, she tells me that there's a chance, small chance, that the child could not be mine. Um,
wow.
uh, because she was still, at the time when we had met up in Missouri, she had either just broken up with the boyfriend that she had or was still with her boyfriend at the time. I can't remember.
It's like a Maury Povich thing.
Oh yeah, so the
Wow.
first time I'm holding her, I'm looking at her, and I'm like, man, I really, really hope this is my kid, but not knowing that it is my kid.
Right.
Um, but
Wow.
anyways, it's my kid. So we got through all that, but every day. So my daughter was born May 17th, 2016.
Okay.
I left to go back to work April 14th, 2016. So I spent every day in that child's life for the first 3 months, and it was freaking awesome. All the, giving her a bath, changing her diaper, feeding her, everything. It was awesome. I think mom only took like 4 or 5 weeks of maternity leave and then
Hmm.
went back to work.
Okay.
I was with her every day. Woke up we were at that apartment. Woke up every morning. Mom was already at work, so we would sit out front. I'd drink coffee and bring her little carrier out there, and she'd sit out there next to me, and yeah, it was pretty cool. It was awesome. And then I went back to work, and then shortly after, that's when it all fell apart again.
Yeah. So, like, what? I mean, was there like you got surprised with paperwork? Came home one day and wasn't there. I mean, what was the
Oh,
what was
oh
the?
yeah, yeah. So, um, So I had left in August, and I was gone the rest of August, September, October, now November, Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So what? 3 months later, I go back to Fort Worth, and I took a week off for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So I go back to Fort Worth, and it's just like I've already got it made up in the back of my mind. I'm like, I don't like you anymore. Because everything leading up to this, it's,
Petty this and fighting over
yeah,
dumb stuff. Yeah.
yeah, there was just all kinds of red flags along the way, and I was just, it was enthused to be there to see my child. I was not enthused to be there to be around her.
Yeah. Yep.
So it wasn't really all that awkward, but whatever. But
Well,
it was kind of over with in my mind. So anyways, that's Thanksgiving 2016. Then a few days go by. My birthday's on December 2nd. On December 2nd, she doesn't even call me, doesn't even text me for my birthday. And I'm like, well, okay, that's kind of the nail in the coffin. I'm like, okay, that's where we're at in life now. Okay, cool. So anyways, up to this point, I had been, paying some bills and all this other stuff and helping out and whatever else. So I sat down and I came up with a dollar amount. And I said, okay, now this is after my birthday, after like the first of December, after December 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And I called her up and I said, hey, I worked this number together. And I said, I came up with $1,000. I said, instead of me paying this bill, paying that bill, I said, I'm just going to put $1,000 in your bank account in between the 13th and the 15th of every month. And she was like, okay. And I think at that point she took it as, okay, we're split up. And she did, I think, because then 3 or 4 weeks later, right after the first of the year,
mm-hmm.
I got a call from our home office saying, hey, Paul, we got somebody that's calling here looking for you, wanting to know what job site that you're on. And we had multiple job sites throughout the country. And I'm like, well, who was it? What do they want? And I think it was a process server. And as soon as I get off the phone with Donna, I was like, there ain't no way. So I called her. And I said, hey, I just got off the phone with their corporate office, with our home office, and they're telling me this. Do you know anything about it? Complete silence on the other end. And I'm like, do you know anything? I had to do something. Now, oh yeah, I forgot. In the meantime of all this, while this was going on, like a week before I get the phone call about, hey, process server's looking for you, my mom was wanting to, which my mom was there in Thanksgiving, so she was just there a month prior when I was there. Well, my mom was wanting to go down there for Christmas or something like that. I don't remember. So all this time she had been ignoring my mom. Well, no shit why she was ignoring my mom, because she was putting this plan together of getting ready to beat the brakes off Dad here. So, she hired an attorney and all this stuff and had me served and whatever else, which was fine, whatever. I mean, as soon as she told me that, I said, send me your attorney's information so I can get a hold of him. And so I get a hold of him even before I even get served. I give him a call and I said, hey, you're trying to, what's going on here? And he's like, well, blah, 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 kind of, he's just going through the
right.
tech, right? And I'm like, okay, look, I said, I don't care about all that. I said, look, here's the deal. Which, I mean, they were trying to set my child support ridiculous freaking amount, but it wasn't a ridiculous amount because it was by the law. I mean, state of Texas, you pay 20% of your income. They were trying to say my child support was going to be $2,000. I'm like, oh, jeez. But anyways, I'm like, okay, I don't care about that. I said, look, this is what I do for a living. This is what I've been doing for 9 years. There is no cookie cutter approach to this, and so on and so forth. And he goes, well, that's not the story that I get. He said, is what we're going to do. And at this point, this is me calling him saying, hey, let's settle.
Right.
and I don't have an attorney at this point. So he said, well, Mom says that you're not bonded with the child. You're an alcoholic, so you're once a week, every Saturday, supervised visits for, I think, 2 or 4 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me. What are you smoking, bro? I went off on this guy. I lost my shit on this guy. Which, I mean, you know, I killed the messenger, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He was just relaying what he was told. So after that, I'm like, okay. I calmed down. I don't remember if I ever apologized to that guy. But I called back. Oh, yeah, I never apologized to him. He wouldn't talk to me anymore after that. I could only talk to his paralegal because I lost my shit on this guy. I mean, but you know, it was a lot thrown at me. I'm going, you got to be kidding me! I can only see my child once a week for like 2 to 4 hours, and it's going to be supervised. Like, you're nuts. So, anyways, that was the whole mess. So that was January of 16. So I tried to haggle for about 2 weeks. This was still in the month of January of 2017. I got nowhere with him. Mom was adamant that I'm this horrible freaking person. And so I hired an attorney right after the first of the month in February. And it took us 3-4 months to get into court. April. I think it was like April 9th, April 10th, 2017 when we finally went to court. So I went from Thanksgiving 2016 until April 2017 without seeing my child.
Like 5-6 months. Wow.
Yeah. And here's the thing. In that duration from when I finally find out she's having me served to we actually get to court, I was still asking Mom to see the kid. Now, of course, I'm not coming at her in the right way because I'm pissed because this attorney says it's telling me that I can get supervised visits. You know, I get a hold of her and I'm like, look. Let me fly down. I'm gonna give me about a week. Let me look at my schedule. I'm gonna fly down. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. Oh no, absolutely not. And all of a sudden, it was like a switch is flipped. Blew my mind. No, Paul. You have extreme issues. You're this. You're that. Blah 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 blah. You're not gonna contact me anymore regarding anything. You just contact my attorney. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So that was it. So, and I didn't get to see my kid. And it took some time to get into court because you're working with 3 people's schedule, 4 people's schedules. You got the court, you got my attorney, you got her attorney, and you got my schedule. Because I had to look at that.
Oh, you got to make money. You're paying for everything because they're already doing all their stuff to you. So, you know, again, you can look back on this, but like, what was that? I think everybody walks into court thinking it's like Perry Mason or Matlock or SGU or whatever it is, and you're probably thinking, like everyone else, is I'm going to go into court, going to say my piece. I'm a dad. I get equal rights. Yada yada yada. What was that biggest? Oh boy, that just hit you.
You know, the first time I went to court, I really can't say anything bad about that. So the first time we went to court was to establish temporary orders, and it was through the 360th court, and the judge was Matt Reek. And so, and here's the other thing. I didn't have a very good attorney, and I didn't know that at the time. And here I am. I don't know what I'm going to do now because I got to come up with a schedule when I can see my child. And with my job, I didn't know at the time.
And you're 5 states away.
what I was even going to be doing the next day. I might get a call saying, hey, you need to come to this job over here, and I'm either jumping in the truck and driving 1,000 miles or jumping on a plane, you know? So I asked the judge, well, my attorney asked the judge for 1 weekend a month. And at the time, I didn't even know whether I could do that.
Right.
So we asked for 1 weekend a month with overnights. The biggest thing that burned my ass is they didn't give me overnights. The judge asked me, he said, when can you fly in on Friday? And when are you going to fly out on Sunday? So I said, I'll probably fly in probably about noon on Fridays. And I'll probably fly out about 6 o'clock on Sundays. Maybe I said 3 o'clock. So, of course, he listens to the smear campaign that was going on over there, because I'm this horrible person. Like, shit I was hearing, I was just like, what?
Oh, yeah.
What?
You're Hitler.
Oh, man. Like, and I'm just like, wow, you know? And you know what really pissed me off about that deal? Out of all the things that were said in court that day, her attorney says, well, but they were together at that time. So it's like, oh, dad can only be around the child if mom and dad are together? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that was their argument for me not having overnights. So,
wow.
Anyways, long story short, I didn't get overnights. It was 3, and I don't remember the time span. Actually, I want to say it was Friday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Okay? This is temporary orders.
Right.
So, 1 weekend a month that I got to designate, and I just had to give mom 7 days heads up. So, Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Then Saturday, it was 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's 3 p.m. or 6 p.m. I'd have to pull out my documents and look. No, it was 6 p.m. I'm pretty sure it was 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then Sunday was like 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's what I got under temporary orders. That was April 9th, 10th, 2017. So I get that, and I get to see my child that day and the next day, which was, it was freaking awesome. I hadn't seen my kid in
months,
man,
5 months.
Yeah, and that was, man, that was hard. So here my daughter is. She's 11 months old. She is 11 months old, and the last time I've seen her, she was approximately 5 months old. Now, don't get me wrong, through the mix of all this, mom was still letting me FaceTime her, which that was a struggle to get. That was a negotiation out to get her attorney to tell her to freaking FaceTime me. Like, what kind of damn parent are you? You got to have an attorney tell you, hey, you got to be nice here. He wants to FaceTime the child. Let him FaceTime. When up until the breakup, we were freaking FaceTiming every day.
Right, yeah. So that sounds like, that whole court process and everything. I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about it, but after it's all said and done, and it's not over with yet, obviously, but how much do you think you've spent? We'll talk about the lost wages, some decisions you had to make, but what do you think you've, all in, what you've spent to be a part of your daughter's life?
Just to get into court, to get adjudicated, and to have my rights established. That was the other thing. We weren't married, so I had no rights, zero zilch. So that's why she could hold the child from me until we went to court. One damn thing I could do about it. So that whole process leading up to May or April 10th, 9th, 10th, whatever it was, that deal cost me $3,500. So it cost me $3,500. The judge was, I tell you what, the judge was very nice about this, and that he gave me some time. They were not supervised visits. That's what mom was pushing for, so he gave me this allotted time. There was no overnights. He took into account, or he took my travel expenses into consideration when he was setting my child support.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He did, because, and I'm like, hey, that's cool. Um, so that's their first court hearing, and it overall wasn't. I didn't walk out of there going, well, the judge screwed me, or the judge did this or this wrong. I think the judge did the best that he could with what was in front of him. So I'm definitely thankful for that, because I've been in this deal long enough. I've heard some shit stories, bad stories, So, so then so that whole deal right there cost me $3,500. I took 4 days off of work. I had to fly. Just an airfare and the hotel and all that. I mean, you're talking $1,200 right there. Every time I came to Texas, it cost me $1,000 bill. Every time.
$1,000 to see your daughter. So, but you also made, again, a larger sacrifice, because before you were in Illinois, you were traveling. But yeah.
Oh yeah. So I do the whole 1 week in a month. Mm-hmm. So I do that May, which was awesome, because I turned around the next month and it was her birthday. And so, I've never missed a birthday. I've gotten lucky. Awesome. I've never missed a birthday. I'm extremely fortunate for that. I've never missed a birthday. So I did May, I did June, and then one day in June, crap, I never realized it. I thought it was like a longer month span than that. But I woke up one day in June and I said, you know what? No, I'm done with this. I don't want my child to feel like I did growing up. I'm like, I got to quit my job, and I've got to move to Texas, and everything else will just fall together as far as me and Mom getting along and doing the best for our child. So I quit that job, and I believe I moved here right at the beginning of July of 2017. Get this shit. So I moved here at the beginning of the month. I moved here. I had already designated, here's what we already had scheduled for the month of July. When I moved here, this was already scheduled. Halfway through the month, like June 15th or July 15th or 16th was my weekend, right? I had already designated my weekend. July 31st was our mediation date, right? Because that's first you go into temporary orders, then you go into mediation. Then if you can't get anywhere after mediation, then you go into final trial, okay? So this was already set before Paul made the decision to move to Texas and quit my job, right? This is very important. July 22nd, that woman calls CPS and opens a CPS case against me days before our mediation.
And what is that commonly referred to now on the back end? On the other side of this, what is that commonly referred to when one parent calls CPS or whatever? Something silver
bullet. That's the start.
Silver bullet.
Physical, and get this. Guess what the allegations were? Now, mind you, I've seen my child 1 week in a month with no overnights for 2 days in April, so pretty much we'll count that as 1 weekend. May and June.
Okay.
And July. 4 months, right? Her allegations are physical abuse and neglect. Me and Mom we don't even talk,
Right.
My child doesn't show up with bruises and all this other stuff, blah blah blah. But it's just very strange that phone call would be made days before mediation. So anyway, I show up for mediation. Well, here's how the silver bullet starts, and they gotta obtain some type of leverage. So anyways, we walk in, we sit down. The first thing that's brought up, the mediator walks in, she goes, well, tell me about this open CPS case.
No.
Because CPS just doesn't open and close a case in like a day or two.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So, in lighter words, I said it's complete ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
She's saying X, Y, Z. I'm like, that's not happening. I know how to properly take care of my child. Yes, I'm a first-time parent. She's a first-time parent as well. You know, my child's never in harm's way, yada, yada. And then, of course, the mediator's like, well, they're over here saying complete opposite. I'm like, you don't say. So, anyways, um, that was in our mediated agreement. So we came to an agreement that day. Here's the stickler on it. We will move forward with this parenting time or visitation schedule as long as CPS case does not find anything. So I had to sit there, and I was at the mercy of CPS for CPS to get this case closed,
Mm-hmm.
so I could get this more parenting time, right? Because all I had at this point was that 1 week in a month, you know.
All right.
So I get a hold of CPS that day, right after we got out of mediation, and I believe it was like the next day or so. The CPS investigator came out to where I had my camper parked, and I showed her the mediated agreement. She goes, "I've never seen this before." She goes, "This is kind of odd." You know,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's typical. She was just trying to gain leverage, but you know, CPS came and they seen what was going on, and it was crap, and they closed the case. Here's where it gets real bad. Here is where I'm upset with the courts right now. But it is what it is. I'm not upset. At the time I was, but so CPS closes the case in like mid-August.
Right.
They closed it. They pretty much had that case open for about 30 days, which is about normal.
Right.
For a case like that. So they closed the case. Mom turns around, fills out this BS affidavit for a TRO.
A temporary restraining order.
Temporary restraining order.
Right.
So here we go. That silver bullet's picking up some speed now.
Yep.
So we rushed down to the court, me and my attorney, to get this thing overthrown by the judge who signed it. The judge says, look, it met all the criteria, I have to sign it. Fair enough. So now, oh man, it was just blew my mind. So anyways, so now we got to set a hearing, because right now I have a temporary restraining order, an active one against me, and I can't see my child.
Right.
So we got to set a hearing date. Luckily, there was time. Right, this worked out really well. Wednesday, the TRO. On a Wednesday, the TRO gets signed. That 2 days later, that Friday, that same week, we were in court for the hearing.
Oh wow. Okay.
But here's the kicker. You know why it was 2 days? Because I had the money.
Right.
That's the difference here. If I wouldn't have had the money, it could have been 90 days. Whenever I would have had the money to pay an attorney to have representation.
Right.
That would have determined on when I got to see my child next.
Right. Yeah. Essentially, you're spending her inheritance, her college, her car, whatever, you know, on all these attorney fees and all this nonsense. And now on the back end, you know that the TRO, the CPS, that's all what they're taught and told to do to play this game to keep you away from your kid.
It's the game that they can play. You know, these agencies, I mean, they're set there for a reason, but unfortunately,
get abused.
They're government-ran agencies, and we all know how that goes with the government. Something starts out to serve a great purpose, and it gets misused. You know, so you know we could go on for that.
That'd be a whole other.
I know personally, you and I could.
Whole other thing. So, like, what? I mean, there's so many different aspects of it, but like one area is like your friends and family. Like when all this happened, I mean, the way they treated you. I mean, anything change with that? You know, the way your folks.
I tell you what, when I quit my job, about the only person that supported me through that decision was my mother. Everybody else thought I was stupid.
Wow.
And they were like, why would you just pay
Yeah.
your child support and see her when you can? Why would you? You're going to live in a ditch. That's what I was told. You're going to end up
Wow.
living in a ditch because I took a huge, huge pay cut.
Yeah, and from my understanding, it's you gave up a very good career to be with your child because that's what's important to you.
Yep.
Wow.
What I gave up in pay is what people would probably kill to have. I took, man, probably about 110K a year cut.
It was well worth it. You do it again.
Oh, absolutely. It's for my child. You
Exactly.
know, and that lifestyle is good with not having kids. But when you have, ultimately, that lifestyle is, if you're going to have you're parenting together and you have the support of the spouse, it will work.
Right.
I know plenty of people that do, but when you're in a split environment, man, that's not the way to go. And if you're actually going to be there for your child, you just need to be done with it.
Now,
So
that kind of segues into, like, if you were to sit down with the mother of your child right now and be able to tell her anything without, cussing her out or whatever, what would you want to tell her? I mean, what would you want to say to her?
actually, I'm not even mad at her. I'm not upset with her. I don't have any ill feelings toward her. I just wish that she would understand that we need to parent together for our child. That is not us coming back together in a romantic, intimate way. We just need to we need to move towards our child. I mean, that's the only thing that I would do. And she needs to, we both need to honor each other's role. And ultimately, that's what would knock out all this conflict with every situation. Both parents turning and moving towards the child, putting the focus on the child, and parenting together.
Yeah.
And honoring each other's role as parents. That would eliminate all this crap. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you get either one or both hung up on the legal side and all this other freaking crap or whatever else. It's a bunch of crap. I mean, all the parents that I work with, the things I hear, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. So, well, what would you say to your daughter? I mean, if she looks back on this, or now, or I mean, what would you say to her?
I don't know. And actually, it's getting really tough right now because my daughter's 4, and she's starting to understand what is going on. She knows, and it kills me. So I'll give you an example. It was probably about a month ago. She called. She wanted to talk to her mom. And I've got standard possession order, 98 days out of the year, every other week, every other 48-hour weekend. Anytime she wants to talk to her mom, I don't care. I let her talk to her mom. So she's on the phone with her mom. Well, she gives me the phone, wants me to talk to her mom. And of course, I'm like, no, I said, Mommy wants to talk to you. No, here, talk to Mommy. And I said, no, honey. I said, are you? If you're done talking to Mom, you need to, tell her bye and get off the phone. So she does that. She gets off the phone and she drops the phone on the ground. And she's like, does her little, And I'm like, what is wrong? She just looks at me. So now I get down on one knee and I get on her level. I'm like, baby, what's wrong? She goes, Daddy talks to Mommy. And I said, Daddy didn't talk to Mommy, honey. She goes, yeah, I know. And she repeated herself again. So I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, do you want Daddy to talk to Mommy? She said, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, wait, and she's upset. So I said, no, wait, does it bother you? I think I said, does it bother you? Are you upset that mommy and daddy don't talk? And she said, yes. And I'm just like, everything that I talk about, everything that I stand for as an advocate, and these avert, all these negative things that go along with this on childhood, it's real. It's real. And that's when it really became a reality to me. She wants her parents together in some way, shape, or form. She wants her parents together to parent for her.
Yeah.
Not she doesn't want her parents together like, an intimate way or anything like that. But, we sit here and we talk about all these statistics. Well, this is why. Because this messes with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the data's out there. Definitely out there.
And nobody gets that. And a lot of times, like in my situation is what it is because mom is whatever in some type of way. She looks at this court order like it's the Bible. Mm-hmm. Like this is it. This is what we follow, even though it says in the court order that, hey, we can do anything that we want to do as long as we agree.
That's the bare minimum.
And I see, yeah, dude. I've been in Texas for over 3 years now. I bet finally about 6 months ago, I was just like, well, it is what it is, and accept it. But I've been begging to be in my child's life more, just to pick her up from daycare. I can't do that, but hey, her parents can pick her up every single day from daycare, But anyways, but this is real. This is what these kids want. These kids want both parents. It doesn't matter. Here it is. This is a 4-year-old child that probably has never remembered her parents actually being together as one unit. I mean, she was 5 months old.
Right, yeah.
When me and mom split. And now, here's the other thing. She's wanting me, I think we talked about this. My daughter had asked me when I dropped her off one time at her mom's house. She wanted me to come up and play with her toys.
Mm-hmm.
And her mom was like, hey, okay, cool, yeah. No big deal. Looks at me and tells me I can't record. Because she knows I record everything. Because I have to freaking record everything. Because it's the only thing that saves my relationship with my child.
So you don't get more CPS and TROs and everything else. I mean...
Yeah. Well, yeah, back to the whole TRO in September. I go into court to defend myself to get this TRO dropped. And I do. Because I wasn't doing all this shit to my kid that she said that I was doing, Mm-hmm. And the judge comes back and says inadequate evidence. Carry on with previously agreed upon child time or visitation. Probably said visitation.
Right.
No recourse for her whatsoever. She done wasted CBS's time, the court's time, my attorney's time, her attorney's time, my damn money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here I am. I just moved to a new area. I'm trying to establish myself. $6,000 was a lot of money to me.
Yeah. Didn't spend that just to, yeah. They're rewarded for it. Or at the very least, nothing happens to them.
Yeah, that was my biggest concern with all that. Looking back, I'm like, really? And even though it states within the family law code that, if basically, in a nutshell, in layman's terms, if you're trying to use the court as a weapon over some BS, there can be penalties, money penalties, and even and other situations where you have to pay a bond before you can even go to court or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, geez, I've already been penalized out of this because I just spent $6,000 in 2 days.
It goes quick. Well, and kind of like why we're here today, or why we know each other. We were both, involuntarily brought into this whole process. I mean, you've actually turned what's happened to you into something positive. I mean, you've been doing a number of different things. I figure we're getting kind of close to the end of the session here. I get a chance to maybe talk about the involvement, the things that you're doing right now, and other organizations. Anything you kind of want bring out or talk about?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, man, this is a generational change. This is a big thing to change because this is a generation. I do what I do because I don't want my child to grow up as an adult, and I don't ever want her to. But if she goes through a family breakup, that she is not going to have to experience the crap. I did, because that's all this is. What I do is not hope that it's going to bring change for my child. I mean, the reality of it is probably not. The legislation process to change the laws are so hard. Well, it's not. It is hard. It's difficult, but it can be done, and we're getting there. But to actually change the social stigma on this, that's going to be the thing that really takes a lot of the time to do, and that's why I do what I do. I'm involved with facilitating co-parenting classes. I run an organization, the Unmarried Father. I run it with another person, and we help guys that are just going through crap to, most of the time just be there for a listening ear for them. We're trying to provide a resource for them because a lot of these parents don't have a resource to navigate this stuff. It's an array of emotions and everything else, and you have no idea what to do when you experience it. And a lot of parents got the raw end of the deal, and a lot of the parents got the raw end of the deal because they didn't have a clear plan. And now, that's not to say that I'm taking away from the ridiculousness of what happens. I understand that happens, but I'm not trying to take away from that. But you have to have a plan. Your life completely changes when you split up. You have to go into complete different. Your level of parenting needs to be taken up at least 10 notches, and that's hard to do. That's hard to fathom for a lot of parents. So that's what I do, and that's what I'm there for, because I don't want kids to lose time with their parents that they don't need to lose on. And unfortunately, the way the system is set up, it's a winner-loser freaking scenario, and somebody's going to lose. And that somebody is the kids every single time.
Every time.
Every time.
All right, well, appreciate you taking the time out to kind of tell us your story and talk about different things. Any, mention that you do a lot of work with the Unmarried Father and other organizations. Any final words of wisdom or anything to tell anyone that may be watching?
If anybody's starting to go through this or thinking about going through a family breakup, you're going to be the one to actually, do that. Really think twice about reconciling. Did I say that right? Anyways,
Reconciling it.
Really put forth the effort to make your relationship work. Really put forth the effort, because the last thing that you want to do is to do this to your children, and you got it in the back of your mind going, well, maybe if I would have done this XYZ different, whatever, the outcome would have been different, because you're going to see this in your kids. It's going to weigh on them. And we live in a society where we're going, all right, I don't like you no more. See you later. I'm out. Mom goes left, dad goes right. I mean, it's just what happened to me. I got tired of her crap, and I just said, I'm tired of this. See you later. Wouldn't even try to work on it. So really think about what you're doing and about the decisions that you're making and how they're really affecting your children, and all the decisions that you make as being a parent, because your children are always watching. And if you do go through this stuff, have a plan, have a strategy, look long term. You're parenting for the long haul here, and that has to be your focus when you're going through this crap. This is a sprint. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and your kids need you to be put together and have a plan, because if not, they will lose time from one parent.
They'll suffer, yeah. All right, well, again, Paul, thank you for taking time to tell us your story and talking about other information. Again, your other organization that you're heavily involved with is Tough, the Unmarried Father. It's on Facebook. I think it's TUF or just Unmarried Father, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
Mary Father.
and I don't know if you can plug the company that you do some work for.
Yeah. So the local organization, nonprofit organization, that I work for, well, volunteer for, um, is New Day Services out of Fort Worth. You can check New Day Services out, newdayservices.org. They are a local company, or a local nonprofit. Here's the great thing: all their resources are now offered through Zoom. So I really encourage anybody that's going through any of this stuff, or you know, just trying to co-parent in general. Check them out. A lot of tools, a lot of great stuff. So, but yeah, so New Day Services in Fort Worth, Texas.
All right. Well, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Again, this is a new process and evolving. We'll be adding some other content and doing some different things, but thank you for listening in or watching on Facebook. I'll be putting in some other areas here, but thank you all, and be a pissed off parent. Y'all have a good one.